Okay, let me read out this poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Crossing the bar. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to the sea. But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out of the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. That's the poem. Okay, bye. Alfred. So, this is a poem written by Alfred towards the end of his life. After writing this poem, about 3 years later, he died. This poem tells us that it was a preparation. He was going under a preparation of this transition of life to death. There is a very thin line between life and death. And that is the bar. This is the bar. That's the meaning. That's the bar here. This is the bar. Bar is where the river flows into the ocean. The river flows into the ocean. Or one source of water flows into the ocean. Both are sources of water. But the ocean is huge and infinite. And what separates one source from the other? Source A, let's write that down here. Source A and source B. This is the ocean. And this is, let's say, river or a pond. What separates the ocean from the river? It's this bar. This is the bar. This is precisely how he metaphorizes. He uses nature to explain the thin line between life and death. On one side there is life, and on the other side there is death. And ultimately what happens to the river or the water on the side A? It has to flow into the oceans. Right? It has to flow into the oceans. The river reflects the way of life. Way of life. And the ocean is the final goal. The final resting heaven or the place. And there, this one can be actually understood as, let's say, human life is like a ship, a small boat on side A, right? We follow this river wherever it takes. And at the end, there is this transition that the poet talks about. When does that transition happen? That transition period is reflected by the sunset and the evening star. The morning is like a young child. You have a lot of energy and life is waiting. The day is waiting. When you are, let's say, in the midday at afternoon, right at 12 o'clock, you are at your best. You are the strongest, right? But what happens slowly? The sun sets. It becomes weaker and weaker before it sets behind the mountain. and the darkness falls. This is precisely what life is. Life can be seen as a day. Right now, you are young students, about 16, 17, 18 years old. And you are almost at 8 o'clock in the morning. Right? The midday is yet to come. Right? I'm somewhere around, let's say, 9 to 10. Or maybe somewhere, not yet 12, but somewhere before 12. This is what life is, right? So the poet says, how do I want to cross that bar? How do I want to go from A to B? A to B. Do I want it to be painful? Do I want it to be peaceful? That is precisely what he reflects here. He shows some kind of insight of life. And he compares that life is a preparation to death. And he expects that my life should end in a very smooth and peaceful manner. Alright? So let's have a look at these sentences. Sunset and evening star and one clear call for me. So he hears a call. And if the call is clear. The call is clear. There is no confusion. That means, okay, now my life is coming to an end. I'm almost at that end. I'm almost coming to this bar. This is what he realizes. Who? The poet. The poet realizes that the call is clear. Isn't that fascinating, right? Yes. And may there be no moaning of the bar. And he expresses his wish. May there be no moaning. Moaning is when you cry with sadness. When you show some kind of displeasure. When you are not pleased, when you are not happy, when you are a little sad about the bar. Oh, let me not moan about the bar. Let me not cry about the bar. I wish not to cry about the bar. I wish not to be worried about that transition. People are scared of death. Right? We all are scared of death. This is the thing. But he expresses, let me not worry. Let me not worry too much. Let me not be sad about that crossing process. He wants to have that. Everybody wants to have death, peaceful death. Do you know this? Everybody wants to have a peaceful and quiet death. Nobody wants to be, worrying and crying and, all that suffering. Nobody wants to go through that suffering at the end of life. So he expresses this. When I put out to sea. Put out to sea means when I go from A to B. When I go from here to here. When I cross the river, through the bar, let there be no mourning. I don't want to be here and cry, oh my God, I don't want to live life, I'm dying. I just want to live. Let it not be like that. I want it to be what? I want it to be peaceful. The transition should be peaceful, without worry, without any hesitation, without holding on to A. Oh, I don't want to go to the ocean. I want to be here. I want to be here. I don't want to die. Let that not be so. Let it be a peaceful transition, a peaceful process. That is what he said. When I put out to the sea, when I go from here to the sea. And sea is infinite. No one knows where things come from. Once you are there, you are there. That's it. This is what life is, right? Your existence, your individuality is there till you are away from the sea. But once you die, there is no individuality in some sense. Right? You become one with the ocean. There is only one ocean. Okay? But such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out of the boundless deep, turns again home. What a beautiful expression here. Let's try to understand with this figure. When we go from A to B on this boat, the boat is the body. What can happen? And in the moment of crossing this bar, there can be great difficulty if the ocean is not full enough. If this bar is apparent, if you can see the bar, the sand heap, what will happen? The boat will
Disturb.
the sandbar will disturb the boat to move further. It will not be able to make way into the ocean. So, what does the poet say? The poet says that the ocean should be full. It should cover the bar when I arrive there, so that I move from river to the ocean peacefully, so that the bar does not block me. Alright? It does not hinder my transition, hinder my process of death. This can happen, you see. If we are filled with desires in life, if we are discontent, if we have not prepared ourselves, our life at the end can be like this bar. It can block ourselves to move smoothly into death. And this has been the realization of many sages in the past. And that's the reason why they say life is a preparation for death. And we have studied about Sadhguru's interpretation of life, right? Of death. Where he says death is another life. There is nothing called death. But still we can be hindered. We can have trouble if the ocean is not full. If we have not realized the ocean in some sense. If we do not know the depth of the ocean. If we do not know the divine. If we do not know the mercy of the God, the consciousness, the supreme consciousness, what can happen? We can be blocked at this bar and we can go through misery and suffering. And this is not something that the poet wants, right?
Yes.
Turns again home. So he wants to go back home without sound, without any disturbance, without foam. All that. Let it be smooth. That is what he said. Twilight and evening bell. Twilight, what's twilight?
The soft glowing light from
When the sun sets, there is still light in the sky, right? That's called twilight. Twilight and the evening bell. You can hear the evening bell. That means it's towards the end of the day. And after that dark, and when the sun sets and when the dark falls, may there be no sadness or farewell. I don't want anybody to be sad because of the farewell, because I've left the world. I myself don't want to be sad, and I don't want others to be sad. He does not want the sadness of the farewell. Farewell means goodbye. When I embark, what is embark here in the picture? Embark is going from here to here. That is embarking. To be in another place. Right? For though from out our born of time and place, we are born out of the limited, infinite time and infinite place. That is what he is trying to say. There is infiniteness in time and infiniteness in place. And we are born out of our born. Born means to cut off, limited. When time is limited and space is limited, we become. Right? We become because of limited time and space. When space is cut, in some sense, when time is cut into pieces, our existence comes into play. Do you understand this? We are actually part of the whole ocean, right?
Yes.
But somebody takes away a droplet from the ocean, and that is we. It is a boundary. When we take water from the ocean, there is a boundary, right? The boundary, that is us. Of time and space. The flood may bear me far, And it may, that limited time and space, that limited individuality can be taken somewhere in the mountains and in the hills and in the sky and somewhere and somewhere. But finally what happens? What happens to the water from the ocean? Water gets evaporated, somebody takes away from ocean and it gets, it gets carried away somewhere, and then, but finally what happens? It comes back to the ocean. That is what he says. The flood may take me away. I hope to see my pilot face to face. So he expresses his desire. He is on a ship, right? The poet is on a ship here. And this ship is carried by someone. Who is that? The pilot. Who is the pilot? Who is the pilot of our life? Our inner soul, our core part of our being, the God we call, the Lord, the consciousness, the Brahman. That is our pilot. And what is his only desire left now?
To see pilot.
To see the pilot. I want to be with the God. I want to be one with it. Isn't it? Yes. Isn't it fascinating? He has left everything. All that he wants is to realize the Supreme. To be one with the Supreme. I hope to see my pilot face to me when I have crossed the bar. And when he crosses the bar, crossed means the past of cross in the archaic language, in the old English language. So all that he wants is when he crosses from here to here, what he wants to see. He wants to be one with the pilot. He wants to see, this is who was behind me. This was what was driving me from the Himalayas to the mountains, to the hills, and all the way to the ocean. And he is the one who drives me. He has been always there. But I have not been able to see when I was here. When I was in the Himalayas, I did not see my pilot. When I was in the mountains, I did not see. When I was in the hills, I did not see. When I was crossing the Tarai region, the plain lands, I was not able to see. But now, oh Lord, I want to see him when I cross the bar. When I am in the ocean, at least show me your face. I want to be one with you. So this is a beautiful poem, a very spiritual poem of death and life. Right?
Yes.